So I asked the question here because I think the game against I'll ask Laker fans this question. Where are the Lakers in the NBA right now? Where are they? And let me tell you what I mean by asking this question. I could go to the NBA standings. I think I had mentioned this to you guys. I think I mentioned it. It might have been last week that the NBA power rankings came out on ESPN and the Lakers were top 10. And I think I was saying that, hey, I'm good with that. They were number 9, I want to say, in the entire NBA. They've got a chance these last couple of games they've played, a tough game against the Cavs and a tough game against the Houston Rockets, and they lost both of those games. I think if I said right now, are the Lakers a top 5 team in the NBA? Which I would qualify top 5 as being tier 1. If you look at the NBA as tiers. Would you say that the Lakers are a tier 1 team in the NBA? I don't think so. I don't think so. Doesn't mean they can't potentially get there. Now we'll see how they would actually accomplish that. But I don't think they're a tier 1 team in the NBA. I'm going to tell you the 5 teams that I think are in tier 1. Okay. I think the Cavs are there. I think the Celtics are there. I actually think the Knicks, if they're not there, they're on the fringe. They could definitely be a tier 1 team. They got so much talent on that team. OKC is obviously there. Um, you pick between Houston and Memphis, whoever's healthy. And if I said I'm just taking 5 teams, Dallas, because Luka's out, I'm taking them out of the mix. I don't think the Lakers are a tier 1 team. And I don't think too many people are going to argue with that. The question then I think becomes, all right, well, can the Lakers become a first tier team? Okay, let's say how that could potentially happen. Here are a couple ways that can happen. I think they 100% need to go make another move. All right. I think the trade for Dorian Finney-Smith, I'm a fan of. I talked to you guys about that. And even though Dorian Finney-Smith has got off to an okay start, it's been nothing crazy. It's not like people are walking around and saying, oh my gosh, we just fleeced Brooklyn. I don't think it's that. But I think Dorian Finney-Smith, as the season progresses, I think he's going to show his value. And then hopefully come playoff time, he's going to show value as well. Okay. So then are the Lakers if they're a second tier team, and that's where I would put them. I think, the second tier in the NBA is teams like Orlando, if they're healthy, teams like Denver, teams like the Clippers. I put I clump all those teams together where you're not 100% sure what you're going to get from those teams every single night, but they also have the capability of beating anyone on any given night. So how do the Lakers go from where they're at today to potentially a tier 1 team in the league? I think the only way that can happen, and by the way, it could just not happen, and you're just depending on getting into the playoffs, and you hope matchups go your way, or you hope that certain teams aren't 100% healthy, or you just catch lightning in a bottle, and then all of a sudden the Lakers go off and they look fantastic for a stretch of a month or whatever the case is. But I think the only way they get even close to that tier 1 area, pretty much everything's got to go their way. They're going to need to make one more trade, like I mentioned. They got to go get a big. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Jovan Buha on the show, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that and just kind of potential trades. And I know that's been kind of a hot topic around the Lakers, but I'll bring this up to him as well. Is how do you get into that upper echelon? How do you get into that tier where everybody's like, damn, that's one of the teams to beat? And I think, A, they got to make a trade. B, I know you guys are not going to want to hear this. They got to get Jared Vanderbilt back, and Vanderbilt's got to be healthy and ready to go. And whatever injuries he's had in the past is completely behind him, and nobody's talking about anymore. That's number 2. And number 3, I do think there's going to be a little bit of they got to have a lot of things just go their way. Sometimes in the playoffs, you guys remember a couple years ago, Lakers got Golden State and Memphis to get to the Western Conference Finals. Those were bad matchups for the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Doesn't it feel like the Lakers will need a little bit of that? I mean, the teams that are tier 1 right now in the league, Oklahoma City Thunder, Lakers have already lost to. Cavs, they've already lost to. If you want to put Houston somewhere around that territory, they've lost to as well. It's not like they're losing by 30 in all these games, but just gives you an idea. And they're going to have more opportunities to play them. They've yet to play Boston. They've yet to play New York. So there's going to be some matchups that they get a little bit later down the road. But it feels like when you look at the scope of the NBA right now, you got your heavy hitters, 5, 6 teams, and then you got this next kind of group. And I put the Lakers in that next group. You guys can tell me if you guys agree with that. And like I said, I do think there's a little bit of, a lot's going to have to kind of gear towards the Lakers' way in order for them. I don't think they're ever going to be a tier 1 team in the league unless there's a trade that goes down again. And the Lakers, you start looking at that roster, and it's like, these guys got 10 deep. They can play multiple different lineups. Of course, Anthony Davis and LeBron and all these other guys got to be healthy, but getting into that tier, I think is going to be interesting. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, let me see some of these comments. Our only shot at a chip in Bron's window would be next year after hopefully getting another 24-plus point score and a serviceable center. I don't think, by the way, I don't think there's going to be, if you think Lakers are going to go after another third star, I don't think it's going to happen. I think trading away D'Angelo Russell kind of ended that. Listen, maybe something can happen, but you're probably shipping out Austin Reeves in any deal like that and whatever other combination of players. And it feels like that's not something that the Lakers are interested in. But there was an article this morning, Jimmy Butler. There was an article this morning on Brandon Ingram. I think Cam Johnson was on that list as well. Just basically players that can all potentially move. I don't think any of those guys are coming to the Lakers. All right, let me see what we got here. On pace for 47 wins, same as last year. And what did last year do? Last year, you got a matchup in the first round that was not exactly favorable because you don't play well against the Denver Nuggets. And they just kind of dominated the Lakers over the last couple of years. And what happened? You were out in 5 games. And I'm not a fan of, well, they only lost by X amount of points. That doesn't matter. Did you win or did you lose the game? And the Lakers lost. Yeah, but Alan, if the Lakers just didn't give up that 20-point that 20 point lead or whatever the case was in game 2, then you know what? They would have been right there. No, they gave up a 20-point lead. So I can't help you with that one. I said at the beginning, Lakers are top 6 seed in the West and need a few moves to hit that top. Tier 2, all teams have a fair share of losing close games. They are 20 and 15 team. By the way, I don't mind the 20 and 15 record. I don't. All right, let's see. Wood and Vando are second and third best rebounders. Need those guys. I almost get sick of myself saying it because I do run into that a lot. But I do think at the end of the day, for those that, I think the frustration that Laker fans get when you bring up Wood and Vando is that they haven't played all year. So why would we even talk about them? But I do think they have, certainly value on this team. Brian says, Lakers top 10. Knicks not a top tier 1 team, no way. Listen, we can make that argument. I actually think the Eastern Conference has probably more consistency in their top tier than the Western Conference does. I think the West is a little overrated, to be honest with you. I think coming into the season, we're all like, oh, the West. The East top teams are pretty damn good. Now, granted, OKC is running circles around the entire NBA right now, them and Cleveland. All right, let me look at a couple of these supers here, and then we'll keep the chat going. I appreciate you guys throwing all these comments in. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. LeBron, lowest plus minus, -12, lowest on the team, -119. No trade will help Lakers stuck with a bad player in the starting lineup. Thank you for the super. I appreciate that. Is that what some people think of LeBron? Because I could also throw it the other way. I mean, there have been plenty of games this year where Bron has either carried the team or he's not necessarily put him on his back, because I don't want to get too dramatic in that regard. So then is the solution get rid of LeBron? LeBron's not going anywhere. Is the solution then, well, don't play LeBron as many minutes? LeBron's going to play plenty of minutes. The plus minus, I've said this before. There are times where we use the plus minus when we want to use it to our advantage, and then there's times when we use it to kind of critique a player and look down on him. I'm not going to pretend LeBron doesn't have flaws. I'm not going to pretend that LeBron, certainly this year, there's areas of his game because he's 40. There's also times where it's like LeBron's still making it happen and still doing it. All right, let's do Northborough AES. Thank you for the super, brother. Bad lineup to start the fourth and didn't bring Braun back fast enough in the fourth. And when Dorian Finney-Smith replaces Rui, the Ham prophecy will be fulfilled. A lot of people, by the way, talking about trying to get Dorian Finney-Smith in that starting lineup for Rui.